Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. I'm Sean Zerbis, the Director of BIM Development, and today we're going to be going through another in the series of the HIVE CMS User Learning Series, focusing today very heavily on how you can update content tagging and how you can use content tagging. As always, of course, if you participate with us live, you can absolutely ask us questions throughout the webinar. Just throw them in there. I try to answer them while we're going. Also, as always, of course, this webinar is recorded, and you can view it later on our YouTube channel. If you're viewing this from YouTube and you want to know when new CTC webinars go live, there's that like and subscribe and hit the little bell notification thing that everybody talks about. That'll just help you know when our webinars are published, and you get to hear all the goodness from CTC. But without any more ado, let's jump in and talk about what today's topic is kind of focusing on. Tagging in the HIVE CMS really can be a fantastic way of kind of filtering down your content if you stay on top of it, and if you actually, if your managers are giving you good tagging and you're working with that tagging, it really can be a very beneficial thing. And as I said, you can tag, you can update that information, so you actually play a big part in the usefulness of those tags. If you are listed as a contributor on a library, you're actually allowed to update the tagging on any piece of content, and this really can help increase the ability to filter and find exactly what you're looking for within the HIVE CMS. And today, in this session, I want to show you exactly how you can work with tagging to really improve your searching experience in the HIVE CMS. Now, some of these topics I've talked about before in other webinars. You can refer to those for more detail on those specific sections, but I will certainly talk about some of the aspects of how this tagging kind of affects your search experience. So we're going to go through four major things. First off, we're going to talk about the controls that you have at your disposal for working with tagging from a filtering point of view while running searches. This way you can kind of see the effect of tags on your content and the results. We're going to take a look at how you can associate tags with other content where it's not already associated. You have that ability, or you can have that ability. We're also going to talk about disassociating tags. If for some reason that tagging is no longer relevant and you want to remove that association, you actually have that power as well when you're marked as a contributor on a library. And finally, one way to validate is, of course, to run a search, but there's another way to validate tag association, and that's looking within the details of the content itself. And so we'll investigate that also. Now, we've talked a lot about filtering. We've talked a lot about searching and saving searches in previous sessions. We've talked about the details panel, but we're going to kind of review that today because all of those things are kind of important as it relates to the act of tagging. So since I'm not big on death by PowerPoint, of course, we're going to jump in and do all of this live, and you very likely will be able to open up your HIVE CMS and follow along with some of what I'm doing so you can kind of get this experience yourself as well. You'll, of course, have different tags available to you probably, and you also may have different rights in certain areas of your library, but we're going to take a look at what this can do. So first off, let's take a look at the tag filtering controls within the HIVE CMS and where you find them. I have a few extra windows opened up here today. I'm going to collapse all of that, and we're going to take a look at where the filtering controls are. I've also already run a search, so I have something here kind of on screen ready to go, and we'll take a look at associating and disassociating tags here in a minute. First off, though, to leverage these tags and to actually filter by them, you're going to want to have the filters panel open. Now, if you don't already have the filters panel open, when you click on it, it's first going to come up unpinned. And every time you click away, it's going to disappear. I have a recommendation for you. I would recommend you pin this panel on screen, and that way it will stay out there all the time, and you'll always be able to see what filters you have available to you, as well as the other tagging, library filters, Revit content filters, AutoCAD content filters, basically everything that you're going to need. Now, I want to show you what I already have set up here. I told you I'd already run a search. I had searched for everything. This is across my entire HIVE environment. I am searching for anything in all of my libraries. The only thing that I'm filtering right now today is the fact that I have a tag here that's listed as discipline mechanical, right? So if I do a different tag, let's say I do discipline architecture here, when I reapply this, it's going to run a search for everything across my entire HIVE collection of content but it's only going to return me items that are somehow associated with discipline architecture. All right, that's the intent there. So this little tagging dropdown, you can mix and match tags, and it will look for anything. If I was to check mechanical as well, it would look for everything across all of my libraries that is either tagged as discipline architecture or tagged as discipline mechanical. So this is an OR style filter. It could be either this tag, or it might be both. It might be the discipline architecture and mechanical, but if it has at least one of them, the results will show up here when I hit apply. When I hit apply right now, I'm going to get a different number this time of how many items it's returning. The first 100 have cached here, and there's 274 total items approximately that are found. But it's going to give me those results based on the fact that I've set my tagging filters right here. So that's how you can filter content based on tagging. You use that filtering panel. Now, of course, you can save your filters with these as well, or you save your searches that are leveraging filters as well. So you can really get consistent results in the future when you're coming back and using the same kind of filter repetitively. Well, now, how do you go through the exercise then of associating additional tagging? Maybe you found something and you feel like it belongs associated to certain kinds of tags, so you can make this reusable in the future. Let me give an example of why you might care about that. Well, I have a tag, that's my libraries. I have a tag inside of here that's called Client MSI Tech, or Client CTC Software, right? This might be something I might associate these tags to customer-specific files in my environment, or pieces of content that I always use when I do work with that customer. And this way I can further filter down my result set. And since as an end user, I have this control, I can actually go through the exercise of associating that to a piece of content that isn't maybe already associated. If I rerun this search here, exclusively looking for content that's associated to Client CTC Software, there is only 3 items that are tagged that way. There's a couple of electrical details, and that's pretty much it. Well, if there's other content that I want, I'm going to uncheck this, and maybe I'll search for something very specific. Like, let's say I want a lighting fixture. So let's try LED. Let's see what shows up with LED. There'll probably be some LED fixtures in my environment somewhere. So yeah, we've got this here. There's an LED flat panel component. There's some LED lighting fixtures here. Fantastic. And so maybe I want some of these items associated to that tag. How do I do that? Well, if I select a bunch of things, either one item at a time or even a number of items, I can right-click on those and I can manage the tags for those items. I can either assign tags or I can remove tags. Now, for right now, we're talking about associating tags or assigning tags. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Manage Libraries Assign Tags function right here. And I could say this associates to Client CTC Software. Now, I don't know if this tag is applied, but since these all happen to be lighting fixtures right here, I could also choose to associate the discipline electrical tag to this at the same time. So you can associate multiple tags if you need to. When I go ahead and select that, normally it's going to process this and actually assign the tags. Now, in this case, I want to point something out. This one's yelling at me, and I kind of figured it was going to give me a problem, because you might notice these all have a little A logo on it. This is the old Autodesk logo. So this is coming from a library that I actually don't own. I don't have rights to, and it's yelling at me about that. It says, hey, I cannot assign that tag because it's owned by a different organization. So you actually can't assign tags to things outside of your firm. So for that reason here, I'm going to refocus my efforts on some of this content that is actually in my company. Let's go take a look at some of these. These MEP productivity pack components down here, they're all very similar. These actually belong to my company. I own them. They're in my libraries. I have a library that's called MEP content right there, Revit content MEP productivity pack, and I put this little logo on there. So because I know that I own this, I can actually assign tags to this. And once again, let's try this. Client CTC Software, Discipline Electrical, and I'm going to go ahead and select that. So it's going to run through the different pieces of content. This one is actually processing. I can tell because I'm getting that progress bar. And at the very end, it's actually not going to give me any report because all of that was successful. It'll only really yell at me with a report if something goes wrong. So this way I know that it's most likely associated. Now, if I was to run that search here, let me just try running a search for Client CTC Software. I'm going to get rid of this LED search for right now. I could keep it, but I'm going to get rid of it so we can see all of the content that's associated to this tag right now. And in this case, there's those original 3 details that I had before, but now there are these 5 lighting fixtures, and in this case, a custom template wall fixture as well, that's now all associated to that client CTC software. You'll notice I'm not doing any extra filtration down here. I'm exclusively leveraging just the tagging for this. And that makes it really easy for me, assuming I have items tagged correctly, to find collections of content. Now, sometimes you may have over-associated something, and you've got too many items that are associated to a tag, or an incorrect item associated to a tag. You may want to remove that later. How does that work? Well, I'm going to disassociate the tag from this custom template because I actually didn't intend to have this one tagged as CTC. I'm going to leave it tagged as electrical, but I didn't want it to be tagged as client CTC software. That was a mistake on my part, so I'm going to right-click on this. I'm going to go to Manage Tags once again, and I'm going to remove some specific discrete tags from that component. Now, I know when I searched client CTC software that this item popped up, and since I didn't want that to pop up, I'm going to disassociate that specific tag right there. I am not going to disassociate it from electrical because this is still an electrical device, and I kind of want that to stay associated, so I'm going to leave that alone. But this one here, I'm just going to disassociate that. And when I click Select, it's going to process that one piece of content, and it will remove that now from being associated to that client CTC software. If I was to reapply my search filters here and refresh this screen, it's going to come back, and now that piece of content does not show up because it's no longer associated to that tag client CTC software, right? That makes it really easy. So I can right-click, manage tags for both of these exercises. I can either assign or associate tags, or I can disassociate or remove tags. So either way, that right-click option shows up right here at the very bottom of the right-click menu on any selection in the Hive content results area. Now, if you don't have rights to be able to do this in a particular library, well, then it won't pop up. You won't even see the option to manage tags, and you'll just know you don't have the rights there to be able to do that for some of what you've selected. All right. There's another way that you can validate whether or not something is associated to tags. You know, if you want, instead of running searches and running filters and trying to scroll to find a particular piece of content, once you have maybe discretely found a particular piece of content, you can see all of the tags that are associated to it. You don't have to play guess your best. You can actually see all of the tags that are associated. So we're going to leverage details here to figure this out. What tags exactly are associated with all of these items? And for that, I'm going to open up the Details panel. That option is right next to the Filters panel here. There's the details sitting there. This one does not have a pin option, so it's just going to stay out there all the time. And now whatever I select over here on the left-hand side, it's going to show me the libraries this content is associated with, but it is also going to show me all of the tags this content is associated with. So let me go find another example here. I'm going to run a search for discipline mechanical. To reapply this, again, that's the only filter that I'm changing. This is going to reset my search results over here, and I'm just going to pick on one of these guys at random, like round T. And when I click on this round T here, I'll be able to find that it's associated to library Revit content MEP productivity pack, and it's associated to, well, that's odd. It's associated to 2 different tags. One of them is discipline mechanical, which makes perfect sense. That's why it showed up, because I was filtering for that. But this round T somehow is also associated to discipline architecture. And that's kind of silly. I don't want this tag or this piece of content associated with that. So I can right-click once again, manage tags, and remove the tag of discipline architecture from that item. So now it's going to be removed. If I click away and select something else, let the Details panel refresh. Oh, oddly enough, this guy is also associated with that. When I click back with round T, notice how that immediately refreshes, and now it's telling me that I only have the tag discipline mechanical or DI mechanical associated to that. This makes it really convenient because you can actually rapidly manage and rapidly assign or unassign a bunch of things. Now, in this case, since this discipline mechanical, you know, all these devices inside of here, they are all going to be mechanical objects in some form because of the tagging. At least I believe that's the case. So I'm just going to look quickly through all of this and just kind of scan down the list. Yeah, all of this is mechanical. This is actually plumbing, so I should reassociate that. Roof drains also plumbing. Air separators, yes, mechanical and plumbing. But I just want to make sure that none of these things are associated with architecture. And it looks like I have a few that are. So I can actually mass select a number of items by using either the control key or my shift key to rapidly select a bunch of items. And then I can do manage tags, remove tags, and I'm going to remove the discipline architecture tag. Now, if it comes across a piece of content like this round T that already has it removed, it's going to say, well, fine, I can't remove it. It's not associated anyway. But if it comes across something that does have it, it will be disassociating the discipline architecture from those pieces of content. So I've just chosen 16 items. It's going to rip through all of them and remove that tagging. I believe the one that was right below this rectangular T with transition beveled RFA used to be associated to discipline architecture, and now because of what we just did, it will no longer be associated. So when I select it, yeah, look at that. Now it's just discipline mechanical as I expected it to be. So that's perfect. So we've talked about a couple of things here. We've talked about using filtration over here, the filters panel, to filter for tags. You can also select any number of pieces of content, and you can do the manage tags, either assigning to associate to a tag or removing of tags to disassociate. And just now, we leverage the details to validate what other tags, or for that matter, whatever other properties across the board might be associated with a piece of content. So you can really dig in and understand that. I personally run my Hive environment pretty much like this right here, where I have the filters panel open. I have 3 columns of content using tiles. That's my personal preference. If you wanted to have, say, the details window open all the time, you absolutely could do that. I tend to just show it this way because for me that's just easier, I think. There's another way, I believe, here. Let me just quickly check in list view. Yeah, this is another way that you can quickly check to see what tags are associated to content without even needing to go over to the details panel itself. You can show your view as a list view. This is another option. I will do this sometimes, but usually I'm working in the tile view. You might like the list view more though, because you can see all the library associations, the tag associations. If there happens to be any ratings associated to content, you will see that happen live. So for example, if I was to show my doors here, my doors actually have some ratings so that the top rated content shows up at the top first, and then lesser rated content shows up after, and unrated content shows up down below that. But you can find that content in those ratings. You can see the libraries and whatever tagging might be associated with something very quickly, very easily. And of course, you can also select, right click, and manage the tags right from this tile or list-based view as well. Whichever way you feel best at working to be able to use tagging, go for it. But this tagging can be a really powerful way to actually filter and maintain your content. So with that, we always want to say thank you. And once again, you can, of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel and get notified when this particular recording goes up, because every one of our webinars is recorded and put up to the YouTube channel. You can subscribe and hit the little bell icon thing. We hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll catch you all later.